So welcome once again. The symbol for our meeting this time has been this globe, which at the moment I'm holding because the sun has come out a little today, and so the lighting has changed. And the globe wasn't in the light, I think, but there we are. We all know about our turning and moving world. And the first of our reflections yesterday was on this question of time, that we are in a process of change the whole life long. And the speed of change, millisecond by millisecond. We normally count the changes in our life by years, if not by months, but by years or decades. But in actual fact, millisecond by millisecond, we are changing. Our life is flowing from its beginning to its conclusion in space-time. So here we are on the journey. And these days are a journey. As you know, we're recording our reflections, and these are reflections. They are not conferences. We're not searching for information. We gather some information along the way. But what we're doing these days, and this is our third one, is just a review of life for me, each one of us, at the end of a year. So at the end of this year, we're giving ourselves a little time to sit back and not to look back on the events of the year that has gone, of the months, but simply to realize where I am now at this present moment on life's journey. No matter how long or short the journey has been so far, no matter how long or short a time we will still travel in life, it's where am I at this particular moment on life's journey. This is the purpose of taking time at the end, towards the end of a calendar year that we put so much trust in, to our ability to divide time up, and we can't in fact control it at all. So it's all a wasted effort in some ways. So we're not looking backwards, we're looking at the present moment. And what we need for the present moment to have a really deep experience of where I am on life's journey at this moment doesn't take a lot of thinking, and certainly not a great deal of information. It requires a time of aloneness, of stillness, and of listening. So these reflections together present us with themes to let our minds rest in, not information on a subject. To clear our focus of life. And when we began this particular time of reflection, we realized that we're talking about change and challenge, that this is really the rhythm of life for us. It is constantly changing, as we just said, millisecond by millisecond. It's changing in society. Huge groups of our family facing situations they've never faced before, and perhaps we never will. Changing changing, changing. Challenging to discover things about ourselves, about being a human being, about being this particular, unique among all the millions that live and have lived on this planet, unique human being and life's journey. So there we are, challenge and change. And we looked at the first one as the challenge of time. The fact that life is so fast and it's not ours to control. The length of life we live, we might guess at. We think certain peoples can manipulate the length of life by making sure that they kill themselves. No. Life is something we live, but we do not control. We're challenged to accept it. And then yesterday, we had a challenge, and yesterday. Can you remember what it was? Do I have to look it up? No, I don't think so. We know that we have been radically challenged physically, but also challenged emotionally and intellectually by the discovery that have become brought back to us about our planet's space in cosmos, in space, where 12 months ago, just about 12 months ago, December the 21st, 5th last year, we launched a telescope specially constructed over many years of joint effort with scientists of different international status, with a telescope that brought us the first photographs, the reality of the beginnings of creation, as far as we know at the moment. And so yesterday we looked at the challenge that this has brought to our lives, the enormity of the speeds and distances involved in bringing us the first pictures of the pillars of creation, as they have been called, columns of gas and dust, as far as we're concerned, in space, incredible distances away from us, in time and movement, and to show us the inside of a nursery where stars are born, and realize what a journey we have already made from when we stood as small children and looked up at the stars at night and realized we couldn't count them and they were a long way away. And now what we know about the birthplace of many of those stars. And so the challenge of our entry into these dimensions of space-time has also changed the present and will the future for all of us. Now, yesterday, when we looked at the discoveries and the information, the knowledge brought back to us by the James Bell Space Telescope, we may have begun to feel proud that we knew all about this. And having been involved with the technology that produced that telescope, humanity is taking a little wiggle of pride and saying, we now know And behind that intellectual knowledge is the voice saying, so it is ours. We control it. And so, along with the glory and the joy of discovery, has gone the realization that we do not control anything. Why? Because we haven't created anything. As simple as that. Simple. And because it is vastly beyond our normal way of thinking, it doesn't seem at all simple. So I'm going to remind you of something that I think most of you know very well. Those of you who've been traveling with us in satsang, traveling on life's journey over the last number of years, will certainly have heard and been reminded of this story in one of our most ancient traditions, perhaps the most ancient, the Vedic tradition. And in the book of the Vedas, the Vedic experience, I've got it here, but I'm not going to read it to you. We come across a story. It's trying to explain the challenge that we all have, this challenge of no ownership and no control. That is what humanity is challenged with on its journey. And it's put in the words of a story for children about the children's way of seeing life and planet Earth. And the story is that all the powers and all the abilities and skill that humanity had, all of that got together and they had a battle and they won the battle. And in the party after the battle, where they were all rejoicing, they got around to telling each other, well, of course, we won that battle because I did this. Or no. The turning point in the battle that made us win was when I did this. And so they started arguing with each one as to which one had really been the most important person in the battle. You know, we do that all the time now. If your parents or you are reading the newspaper, they'll tell you how one country is blaming another and saying it's because we did this that we have discovered this or that. We're all trying to prove that we are the ones who are most important. And so in this story in the Vedas, it's put for children so we will remember it, the truth. When the battle, or the argument rather, was going on about all the powers that mankind has, as to which was the most important, they began to look around and say, there's something else over there. I don't know what it is. Another being. And so one of the powers nudges storm or wind and says, you go over and ask, find out what that is, that being whom we don't know. And so the power of hurricanes and storms, and we've seen them in our newspapers and on our televisions recently, ravaging the sides of various countries. Storms and floods and destruction that those countries had never experienced in that degree before. And that's happened within the last few weeks. And so the power that those storms have. And so storm goes over to challenge this being they do not know and says, whose power is this? And what power is in you? That is the key question. And the storm says, well, you can see what I can do. I can destroy miles and miles of countryside and crops and houses and so on. I can leave people without water. I can leave them without food. I can destroy any building. And so the being that they went to question picks up a piece of straw and just puts it down in front of the power of storm and hurricane and says, blow that away. Hurricane didn't even laugh, but the piece of straw did not move. And whatever he tried, he couldn't do it. So very shaken and humiliated, he walked away and came back and got hold of fire and said, you go and try, it's not worth it. So fire, and you think of how much destruction of life and constructions and again food and houses and everything we think is precious and we can make, how much of that gets destroyed each year by fire? All the countryside that gets ravaged and destructed and completely destroyed by the fire, like the mountain fires and the forest fires. And we've seen many of those all around the coast of North America. But we've had them over here in Europe too. Fire belongs all over the world. So fire went over and he got the same treatment. He had a piece of straw put in front of him, dry straw, and said, burn that. Oh. But the piece of straw did not burn. And when he tried several times, he began to get frightened. This he could not do. Well, this is the experience that is written this way in the form of a story for children. But it's the theme that we have to look at quietly today, alone and in silence. What were we learning in this story? We were challenged by the limits of our power, which in actual fact reminded us that as human beings, we are powerless. We do not have ultimate power. No ultimate power. We do not have creative power. We can reform and rearrange in different designs and structures what already exists. But to create something, you have to bring it out of the void, out of total emptiness, where nothing is. And we as human beings cannot do this. We use the word create too casually. When somebody's had a new idea of arranging flowers or painting a wall or doing a communication service, all we're doing is rearranging the elements that already exist. But we didn't bring anything into existence out of nothing. Perhaps one of our biggest challenges as a human being on life's journey is to accept the truth of our ultimate powerlessness. Stop calling ourselves oh, she's very creative. We can't create, but we do realize what has been created, but certainly not by us. Now, this is the main theme on our third day together. To take into the silence and the stillness. I cannot create. Then what can? What came out of the void? Creation. And who brought creation out of the void? We can't. We can't even burn. We think we could make a forest fire, but at the same time, the forest fire had to learn that it couldn't even burn a single piece of straw or blow it away, no matter how strong the storm was. Now, these are put in poetic terms or in the terms of a story for children. But we can go beyond that. We know the challenge that there is in this truth. We are human beings, and as human beings, we're greatly gifted, but we cannot create. We have a limit to our power. And basically, we are powerless. We can use what is there, what is given. We can follow the instructions that we're given by experience, but we cannot create. So therefore, if we cannot bring anything into existence, we cannot control it. So the challenge is realizing that we are not the ones in control. We do not own even a piece of straw. We do not own, we do not control. We need to just sit with these truths where I am, where we are, each one of us, where I am on this life's journey. Knowing that I'm challenged by time and the speed of time and the changes that time brings. Know that I'm challenged in so many different ways. And realizing from today's theme, from the thing that the thought that you take into silence with you until you hear the truth, not in words, but within the depth of yourself. It can be a wonderful day. And we're still on the journey, and we'll still face challenge tomorrow. So do please take the time you've decided you need for today. Is anything else more worthwhile doing? No. So let's go and enjoy the challenge of not being able to do today.